Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a guide for round 26 of the manufacturer series. Let's get this started. Your first braking point is before you reach the 100-meter mark. You want to get the car to quickly rotate around this turn as safely as possible. Get the car pointing where you want to go and carefully start to accelerate. Now for everyone's favorite part of the track, you want to get on the curbs on the left. Just after the curb starts, you want to brake hard for a very short moment, then make your way to the curb on the right and carefully start to accelerate. You want to try to go through all of this in as straight of a line as possible, that way you can get a fast exit. Use the 150-meter sign as your next braking point. And you want to be super careful as you go through here. Do not get under AstroTurf on the left. Do lots of throttle control. Just wait until your car is pointing where you want to go and then start to fully accelerate. Now brake well before the curb on the left starts. You want to brake early for this turn since you are going downhill. Take your time with the throttle. Don't rush it. Bring yourself to the right and brake early for this turn. Try to avoid hitting the bollards as they can potentially screw you up. I ended up getting lucky there. Straighten up the car and fully accelerate and brake before you reach the 50-meter mark. Slowly ease off of the brakes and just take your time with the throttle input. You can go up a gear pretty early on, that way you can get a little more stability and reduce the chance of wheel spin. Now brake at the 100-meter mark. Just bring yourself to the inside of the turns. Carefully accelerate, ease off the throttle if necessary, use a little braking if necessary, then brake before you reach the curb that is on the left. Just let the car quickly rotate around this turn before you fully accelerate, and you want to ease off the throttle for this turn. Just get the car straightened up, avoid the curbs on the left, and start to fully accelerate. Bring yourself to the right and you want to brake a little early for this turn. Just use some of your braking power for a short moment. That way you can land yourself onto the curbs. Then brake before you reach the 150-meter mark. You also want to take advantage of the curbs here. Just get the car to rotate as fast as you can. Get the car pointing where you want to go. And be especially careful with accelerating out of this turn. But that is all for the lap guide. Let's go ahead and quickly talk about the strategies. For the qualifying session, you're going to have 10 minutes to try to get a good qualifying time. Unlike most of the other qualifying sessions that I've covered in the past, for this one, you're not going to want to do the jump out and jump back in strategy. This one, you just want to do one super long stint. Hopefully, not messing up anywhere at all to the point where you have to actually do that strategy. So if you're able to keep it squeaky clean, then you should be able to do just fine. Just try to get the best times possible. Keep your driving squeaky clean. Try not to do any errors at all. And you can pretty much just do the super long stint because the tire wear is not going to be an issue around here. Even after you do the entire race, which I'll talk about in a bit, the tire wear will present very little issue at all. So if that's the case over there in the race session, then it shouldn't be a problem here in the qualifying session as well. Once again, just try to get a squeaky clean lap without causing any errors. And you also, especially in the out lap, you want to try to give yourself and those around you plenty of space. That way you do not run the risk of getting too close to them, especially if they end up making some errors during their qualifying laps. So for the race strategy, or before we get to that, you do want to be careful if you're going to end up starting in the middle of the bus-up chicane, as it's going to be really easy to spin out here. A good way to try to combat that is to have traction control on as you go through the bus-up chicane when you start the race. And once you feel comfortable enough, you can then switch it off and go about your race. As for the actual race itself, it's an easy no-stop race. The tire wear presents very little issue, and the fuel consumption, that is not an issue at all. You just want to try to drive a clean race without causing any errors, as making an error on Spa in the wet will end up amplifying those mistakes, which will make you lose even more time compared to making a similar mistake under dry conditions. And one last thing I would like to note is that mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars will be at an advantage here, and that is because the center of gravity for those cars are closer towards the middle, and that's going to allow them to rotate around the corners a lot better than those in the front engine rear-wheel drive cars. Interestingly, some of the possible exceptions to this rule are the Dodge Viper, the AMG GT3 if I remember correctly, and the BMW Z4. So those cars can still be competitive, but they're still going to have a bit of that issue of trying to rotate around these corners at a high rate of speed, whereas the mid-engine cars, they're going to have an easier time just making their way through these turns. So if you're in a front engine rear-wheel drive car, I would try to do a few practice laps first and determine whether this race is going to be one that you're going to want to do. But other than that, that is pretty much it for this guide, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. So this is Mr. MCA wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.